This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by Tim the Toolman Taylor. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. And this is the second solo show I've recorded this week. So a bit of a different one this week. The other night I recorded like a 25-minute episode on my most recent DIY project about how I converted my garage into a cinema. I'm going to tag that onto the end of this episode tonight. So that was only about 25 minutes. It was going to be the episode, but then the Oscar nominations dropped. So what I'm going to do this week is give you like a double hit of solo shows. So if you don't dig me talking to myself by myself, it might not be for you. But I just thought I'd do something a little bit different. So I actually did reach out to someone to talk about the Oscars kind of last minute, but they bowed out. They kind of said, it's not really, probably won't work out because I haven't seen many of the films nominated. I haven't either, but that's okay. I'll take any opportunity to talk. So what I'm going to do is go through the nominations category by category, kind of just share my thoughts and feelings on them. And then when this part wraps up, there'll be a second part in which you'll hear me talk all about the renovation. So again, it's a little bit different, not so much, well, there'll be a lot of movie talk in this one when I talk about the Oscars. But the second part I think will be fascinating, especially if you are a movie fan and you have always wanted to kind of create your own movie space. I'm certainly not saying I'm an expert. It was my first time doing it, but I did it basically by myself pretty cheaply. So if I can do it, anyone can. So that'll be the second part of it. But tonight, of the first part, I'm going to talk about the Oscars because there's obviously some controversy as there always is. So I'm kind of just going to go through the nominations, weigh in on my thoughts, and then get out of here. And then next week we're going to begin our 2000s focus. So more straightforward movie talk from next week, and back to the plan of what the show normally is. I'm just going to go in reverse order. So obviously I'll start with the last one listed. I'm using the IMDb here, and I'll finish with the one that everyone cares about, which is best picture. So first of all, I guess it's worth mentioning there are some honorary awards this year. One of the nominees I haven't heard of before. Her name's Carol Littleton. I believe she's an editor. But then also Angela Bassett and Mel Brooks won an honorary award this year. I'm shocked that Mel Brooks hasn't been given an honorary award before this year. Like he's going to be 100 in 2 years. And he's kind of defined an entire genre over decades, like over half a century at least. But anyway, good to see he got a nod. And Angela Bassett obviously is a queen, an absolute genius. So glad to see them get some awards. And Carol Littleton as well. I don't want to take away from her. As an editor, she's worked on E.T. and The Manchurian Candidate and Dreamcatcher, and a bunch of other stuff as well. But even if she only did E.T., what a fantastic career. All right, let's jump into the first category, Best International Feature. I've only heard of one of these, which is Society of Snow, which my good friend Nick Owen talked about. It was in his top 10 of the year. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really weigh in on this. But that's okay. I'm going to skip over some topics, not because I don't think they're worthy, just because I couldn't tell you anything about them, so I can't really weigh in. So let's go to the first controversial set of nominees, and that's Best Animated Feature. Now, in my top 10, I talked about how 2023 was a cracker year for animation. I actually had 3 animated films in my top 10 films of the year. They were all great. But there are some startling omissions. So I'll go through the nominees and then I'll kind of weigh in. So the nominees for Best Animated Feature are Elemental, which was a Disney film. I haven't seen that one yet. Nimona, which I haven't seen. I don't really know anything about it. Robot Dreams, which looks to be maybe a Spanish animated film from the looks of it. I lost my place. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron, which is the latest Hayao Miyazaki film. So I've only seen one film in the nominees, and that's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm not surprised to see Spider-Verse in there. Obviously, they're probably making up for the fact that I don't think Into the Spider-Verse did get any nods. I'm going to have a quick look now. I don't believe it was nominated for anything. We'll have a look and see if it had any awards. Oh, okay, it did get nominated. Oh, it actually won Best Animated Feature. Okay, I'll shut up. Fair enough. That's okay. I get it wrong sometimes on this show, and when I say sometimes, I mean a lot of the time. Um, I'm glad to see Miyazaki get a nod. I haven't seen The Boy and the Heron, but his films are generally top quality. He has lots of fans and makes beautiful pictures. So not concerned about that. Glad to see some lesser known films get the spotlight as well. Nimona and Robot Dreams. As I said, know nothing about them, but glad to see something different get a nod. I guess where my sticking point is Elemental. Now I haven't seen Elemental, but I feel it probably got a nomination because it was a Pixar film. And that's not like a diss. Like Pixar is amazing, but Pixar has been the cornerstone of animation for the last 30 years. Um, and I almost feel like if Pixar released a film, they're going to get a nod just for being a Pixar film, which feels a little unfair, if I'm being honest. Um, Again, I haven't seen it. Maybe the flick's brilliant. I've heard mixed things about it, and I don't want to tear one thing down to elevate something else. But it just feels like every Academy Awards there's a Disney or Pixar film nodded just because they're huge animation studios, which is nothing wrong with that. But it's beginning to feel like as the genre grows, and it's taken a while, like 30 years for the animation genre to really grow, maybe they need to consider what they did with Best Picture and open up more categories. Because I'm shocked that Turtles didn't get nominated. Like Ninja Turtles, I think was visually the most interesting animated film we got of the year. As I said, I haven't watched these other ones. Elemental looks very much like every other Pixar film. A couple of cool little things in there, what I saw in the trailer, but ultimately, you can, you could turn the sound off. You could just look at a 2 second clip, and you'll know it's a Pixar film. Spider Verse, as I said in my top 10 list last week, I really enjoyed a lot of it, but I thought it was missing things. And again, I don't understand, I guess, what the criteria is behind best. Like what makes it the best film? Because I think that, well, visually it was one of the best films of the year. I felt like, the storytelling wasn't quite as concise as the first film. And as I mentioned time and time again, it didn't have all the heart that I was hoping for. I don't want to talk negative. Like, I love that film. But, like, I think that Turtles had a stronger emotional core and a more succinct storytelling than Spider Verse. So look, again, not controversial so much, but just I don't know. I just felt like maybe I feel like maybe now, as as the genre really is taking off, as I said before, we need to open up to more categories. Because I'm cool with Pixar getting a nod, but it is a little bit predictable, and I want I don't know, just if we can open up the category, not only can we um, get more interesting films in there, or the more interesting American films or Western films, we can get more films from other countries as well, and just really, crack open the genre. But anyway, that's animated feature films. I would have liked to see Turtles. I would have liked to see Super Mario. Like the flick made until Barbie came out, Super Mario was the highest grossing film of the year. Now that doesn't define quality, but the flick kind of did a magic trick. I'm going to skip over documentary because I just didn't really watch any of them. So the next set is best achievement in visual effects. And this is where, if you haven't watched the Oscars before, and I haven't watched the Oscars in quite a few years now, because of stuff like I was just talking about with the animated section. But visual effects is where your superhero films, your popcorn movies get a chance to shine, because it's very rare that they get any actual. Not to take away from the visual effects, obviously that still counts, but like as I said last week, Robert Downey Jr. was never going to get a nomination for Best Actor, even though his performance as Tony Stark is brilliant. Avengers was never going to get nominated for Best Picture, even though, again, like highest grossing and like one of the highest rated, films critically and by audiences in the year it was released. Despite that, what defines best, I don't know. That's why I do my show. I just say if every movie is someone's favorite movie, there are no bad movies, and we can all just love movies. The best nominees for visual effects, I was really excited about this first one, Godzilla minus one. I love this flick, considering it was made for a fraction of the budget of all the other ones in the categories, and I'll go through them all, and then I'll tell you the budgets. I was astounded by what I saw. And like, is it seamless? Nah, you can see bits and pieces. You can see where the CGI fails a little bit, but it doesn't matter because movies are all about suspending your disbelief. And Godzilla worked for me on so many levels. I didn't care about some of the lesser CGI. When it works, it absolutely flies. Next nomination is Guardians of the Galaxy. No surprises there. Whilst there's been a lot of concerns around Marvel recently, I know a lot of people have had I kind of criticized Marvel's use of CGI and like how it's been a little bit shaky. It's never bothered me, but Guardians is crisp and clean, like it is flawless. Um, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. It's interesting that it got nominated for visual effects because most of the effects in the Mission Impossible films are practical. But I guess it's more about like making those practical effects blend seamlessly um, into digital, like as I can't even say words. It's Thursday night at the end of a work week, but it blends so well it looks realistic. So I'll give them that. Napoleon I haven't seen, so I don't know what kind of visual effects they used, but it's Ridley Scott, so he's going to do some cool stuff. And then The Creator, which is probably actually the best of the bunch, if I'm honest. Like visually, that flick was flawless. I mean, I loved Guardians for its visuals, but The Creator, I think, did something astounding. I think that had a pretty low budget as well. So let's go through the budgets, and then you'll be able to kind of like that. I think really helps inform best for me. Like if I can see if you can spend a small amount of money and get a really stunning result, then that's best. So starting with Godzilla minus one, its budget was $15 million, which is crazy. Like it sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but for a movie, it's pennies. Like most of your superhero films start at $100 million budget. So $15 million for Godzilla. If we go to Guardians 3, $250 million. So like 20 times the budget of Godzilla, which is insane. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is where are you? Where's your money? $291 million. So definitely 20 times the budget of Godzilla. Um, Napoleon, that's Ridley Scott. He likes to spend money as well. Is where is it? $200 million. And then The Creator. I think The Creator was a lower budget flick. It's Gareth Evans. He doesn't like to spend a lot of money. So if we go in here, $80 million. So that's actually like that sounds like again that's a lot of money as well, but that's not a lot for a mainstream studio film. Like I think the first Deadpool movie was shot for $60 million, um, and that was obviously almost 10 years ago now, but that was still considerably lower. Like we always whenever I talk about Batman movies on this podcast and talking about the budgeting, I always say that Batman shouldn't be an expensive film. It doesn't need to be big explosions and visual effects. It's a guy in a mask on rooftops. Um, Honestly, for me, I should go through and say who I want to win as well. So for animated film, well, I've only seen Spider-Verse, so I guess I want Spider-Verse to win. Um, for visual effects, I'd really like to see Creator take it. I think Creator will take it. But honestly, I'd be happy with any of them taking it. Like all of the films that I've seen look amazing. The only one I haven't seen is Napoleon, but the trailers look pretty good. If anyone wanted, I'd be happy. But I think Godzilla would be the real fairy tale ending, wouldn't it? Um, Nothing controversial. That's all pretty good. Alrighty, next is Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Pictures, Original Song. So Best Original Song. Um, the first nominee is for a movie I haven't, in fact, most of the film, I don't know, there's only one I haven't heard of. So the first is American Symphony, which is the movie that Liz and David were talking about um, in the first episode this year. So there's a song written by John Batiste, It Never Went Away. Knowing how emotional that story is meant to be and how much it resonated with Liz and David, I guess I kind of want that to win because it's probably the most serious and grounded song. Um, then I think this is a little bit controversial. Barbie gets 2 nominees. So the Billie Eilish song "What Was I Made For" and the Mark Ronson song "I'm Just Ken." Both fun. One song very emotional, the other one's quite fun. Do you need two bites at the apple? And we're going to talk about Barbie a lot more because there's definitely some controversy around the Barbie nominations. I understand the controversy, but I also want to point out that this is a movie based on a toy, and to get as many nominations as they did and to be the highest grossing movie of the year, like you got a lot when some people got nothing. Like I'm not trying to undercut it. Like it's bizarre that Margot Robbie didn't get nominated. It's bizarre that Greta Gerwig didn't get nominated. Like that, they seem like the obvious choices. Um, but they did get a lot of nominations when some got none. So for example, I know it's not an Academy Award worthy song, but ditch Ken and throw in Peaches. Like why not? Isn't that fun? Like Super Mario got nothing. Um, which is a bit disappointing, but Super Mario is not an Academy movie. I get it. Next was Flamin' Hot from The Fire Inside. So the song is called The Fire Inside, and it's Flamin' Hot, which is the Cheetos movie, which I never watched. Um, and then there's a song by Scott George for Killers of the Flower Moon. If I had to predict who's going to win, I think it's going to be What Was I Made For from Barbie. I think that's going to be the one that wins. But yeah, I don't know whether they needed two bites of the apple. Again, I'm not trying to criticize. Like, hey, that's awesome, but again, like I don't know, you're stacking the deck there. That's just me. Next up is Best Achievement in Written Music, music written for motion picture, so original score. I haven't seen most of these movies. Okay, I have. I've seen 3 out of 5. The first one is for American Fiction, which I haven't seen. John Williams got nominated for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Robbie Robertson for Killers of the Flower Moon, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, and Jerskin Fendrix for Poor Things. I haven't seen American Fiction or Poor Things. I'm hoping to see Poor Things this weekend, which by the time this episode comes out, I hopefully have seen it. Um, the only score I really remember is Indiana Jones. It's because I've known that score my entire life. I feel like Ludwig for Oppenheimer is going to win it. He's such a great composer. Like considering he got his mainstream start on Community, and which, by the way, Community's score is beautiful. If you've never listened to the music of Community, like somehow, like they took a dopey little sitcom, which I adore and love, and gave it just the most heartfelt music, like fun, upbeat, like totally fits the tone, but then goes into really like um, sentimental places. Loved it. Yeah. Next up is Hair and Makeup. So again, a couple of flicks I haven't seen. Actually, I've only seen one of these flicks. Hair and Makeup. The nominees are Golda, which is a movie I haven't even heard of. If I'm being honest with you. Um, it's got Helen Mirren in it, and it looks like it's a biopic. It actually hasn't come out in Australia. It won't be out till March. Maestro, oh my goodness, I've forgotten his name. Bradley Cooper film based on Lenny Bernstein. Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Society of Snow. I've only seen Oppenheimer, and I've seen pictures of Bradley Cooper as Lenny Bernstein, so that's all I've really got to go on. I feel like Oppenheimer is going to be a clean sweep with a lot of stuff this year. But Poor Things. I like Yorgos Lanthimos, so I hope you get some love there. Next up is Best Sound. So the nominees are Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Oppenheimer, Creator, and The Zone of Interest. I haven't heard of The Zone of Interest. That one is um, it's a World War II film actually, and it gets released later in February for us here in Australia. In the States, you might already have it. I'm not sure. It's so funny because as I was watching Mission Impossible, I hadn't seen it when I was recording with Nick last week, but I put it on the other night, and as I was watching it, I sent him a text message and I said, if this film doesn't get nominated for Best Sound, I'm going to be furious because the opening fights, it's not even the opening scene, but one of the first scenes is like a shootout in the desert, and it's so well edited. It's crazy. And it happens again and again. It's so noticeable. Like normally it's not so noticeable, and that's the beauty of sound, but it's noticeable in a non-distracting way. And when the nominees came out, the first thing I said to Nico, and I sent him a message, all caps, I said, I knew it. It got a nod. For me, I think it's got to get it. Like Creator's got some great sound. Oppenheimer's got some great sound. Maestro, presumably being all about music, should. But I want Mission Impossible to get it. I think the flick was the best of the bunch. It was, I think, the best Mission Impossible movie I've ever seen, and I want to get some love. So then we go to Best Achievement in Costume Design. So the nominees for this one are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I haven't seen Napoleon or Poor Things yet. Barbie, I think, is probably going to win. I think it's so deliberate and glaringly obvious and fun that it's going to appeal to the hearts of the voters. Whilst I haven't seen Poor Things, I think what I've seen in the trailers and images, the costuming looks quite good. Killers, I think, is very authentic, but if I'm being honest, a little bit boring, and that's not a criticism. Like, but I think if you put, and same with, I would put Oppenheimer in there as well, a little bit boring, and not in terms of like what a boring movie or like what a boring choice. Those films have a very specific tone, and those costumes match, the tone of those films. So if they're judging on authenticity, then I think either of those two will take it. But I think if they're going for just the kind of pizzazz of and showmanship of costume, I think Barbie's going to take it. And I think Barbie and Oppenheimer are going to sweep a lot of these categories. Um, Next up is Best Achievement in Production Design. And it's the same bunch again: Barbie, Killers, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. Again, I think Barbie's going to take it. Like, it's so artificial when you're in Barbie world. Everything looks like the toys from our childhood and before I was even born. Like, it's so well executed. But production design, Oppenheimer, also excellent. Killers, also excellent. I think that they're going to be tight categories. Again, I think Barbie's going to sweep just because it's so glaringly different. Like, Napoleon, Kills the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer are all gray and brown movies, and Barbie is pink. And I think it's going to set them as out from the rest of the nominees. And then next up is Best Achievement in Film Editing. I haven't seen most of these films. I've only seen two of them. So Anatomy of a Fall, I haven't seen. I'd really like to. Killers of the Flower Moon, I've seen. Oppenheimer, I've seen. I think Oppenheimer will win. The editing is fantastic. I've been saying this since I saw it, 6 months ago. Oppenheimer is a biopic shot like an action film. The editing is astounding. Poor Things, Yorgos does some really interesting stuff, so he might be a bit of a dark horse here. And The Holdovers, I haven't seen either, but um, it's been nominated, so I'm guessing the editing is pretty good. But I'm going Oppenheimer here. I just think it's so masterfully done. And then we go to cinematography, and a couple of, actually it's a lot of the same, a lot of the same ones again. So Kills the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. But adding to that, El Conde, which is a film I haven't seen. It looks like it's mainly a Netflix film. And actually it's a vampire. It's a vampire comedy. That's awesome. Oh, I really want to watch this. Actually, that looks great. Cinematography, I think it's going to be Oppenheimer. I just like uh, Chris Nolan's got such an eye for shots and visuals, and Oppenheimer is no exception. And Oppenheimer, very different to his previous work, he makes use of small spaces. Like, normally he puts everything on a grand scale, and whilst it's a very grand film, a lot of things are shot in small claustrophobic rooms, and he still makes it work. So I think it's probably going to be Oppenheimer. But again, Poor Things and Killers, I think, are quite good looking as well. And then we go into Best Adapted Screenplay. And again, it's the usual suspects. American Fiction got another nomination, which I haven't seen. Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest. I think it's probably going to be Oppenheimer, but it could be Barbie. It could be, but I think it's going to be one of those two. I don't know what Poor Things is based on, but I would love for them to get a nod, as I've mentioned. I just think that Poor Things. I think everything's going to get overshadowed by Oppenheimer and Barbie. I think they're going to be the two front runners for the entire award season. Which brings us to Best Original Screenplay, and I haven't seen any of these movies, so I can't really weigh in. Anatomy of a Fall has been getting a lot of love. Maestro, May December, which is the movie that Nick was talking about that he really wanted to see. Past Lives, I think, is a bit of a dark horse. It's been getting a lot of love as well, so hopefully they get a nod. And The Holdovers, but I just don't know enough about them to really talk about them. Which comes to Best Directing, and this is where we've seen a little bit of controversy. So Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer doesn't surprise anyone. Jonathan Glazer for Zone of Interest, haven't seen it. Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Kills the Flower Moon, and Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things. I think Chris Nolan, Martin Scorsese, and Yorgos are absolutely predictable. I think we knew they were getting nodded. The startling omission is Greta Gerwig, and whilst her movie has received a number of nominations so far, and there are a few more to come, it does seem a bit strange, especially because she has been nominated previously. She got nominated for Lady Bird, I'm pretty sure. And I think she got nominated for Little Women as well, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen Zone of Interest, so I don't want to judge it. Like, it is a World War II film, and World War II films do tend to get a lot of love Academy Award season. Um, but because I haven't seen that or Anatomy of a Fall, I can't say whether the directing was good or bad or anything like that. But it does seem weird that Greta is not there. Because even though I was very open about it in my top 10, I didn't think Barbie was the best film of the year. It wasn't my favorite film. It didn't even make my top 10, and that's not a criticism. I loved the film, but 2023 was great for consistency. There were a lot of consistently good films. It just didn't hit me the way that it hit other people, and that's fine. But it was well made, and Greta did a great job. So is a little bit strange and disappointing that she didn't get a nod. We're going to jump to Best Supporting Actress. So America Ferrera for Barbie, the only woman from Barbie's cast or crew to get a nod, except for that Billie Eilish song. Um, Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers, which I haven't seen. Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, which hasn't come out here yet. Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, and Jodie Foster for Nyad, which I haven't seen either. I think personally, for me, it's got to be Emily Blunt. As I said last week, she's in the movie for 5 minutes and steals the whole show. Like her 5 minute interrogation scene is the best scene in that film. It's in the best hour of the film. It's in the best part of the film, and she is the best performer in that film for the 5 minutes. And that's not taking anything away from Cillian Murphy. He's fantastic, but what he delivered in 3 hours, she delivered in 5 minutes. Which maybe people will think is controversial as well, but I just thought she was brilliant. America Ferrera, I thought was good in Barbie. I'm still not taking anything away from her. Um, yeah, I thought she was good as well, but I just think Emily Blunt is going to take the edge. So which brings us to Best Supporting Actor. And there's been another bit of controversy here. So Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. Haven't seen yet, but I love me some Ruffalo. Interesting, we've got a couple of Marvel guys against each other. Mark Ruffalo versus Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer versus Sterling K. Brown. I think he was in a Marvel thing as well, if I remember correctly. I can't remember anymore. Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, fantastic. Robert De Niro in Killers the Flower Moon, fantastic. Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction. I don't know who's going to take it. I don't know who's going to take it. My instinct tells me Ruffalo. I'm hearing lots of good things about his performance, which is another reason why I can't wait to see it. But without saying I don't know, of the ones I've seen, I think I'm probably giving Robert Downey Jr. the edge. I think he's really good, and it's nice to see him play something other than Iron Man, or playing something other than himself. Like Iron Man is kind of Tony Stark, is kind of Robert Downey Jr. light, or maybe like Robert Downey Jr. heavy. And even in like things like The Judge and stuff, there's a lot of Robert Downey Jr. in that performance. But Oppenheimer, I felt like he really did do something a little bit different. Probably the most different thing he's done since The Singing Detective, maybe. I mean, I haven't seen everything he's done in the last 20 years, so that might be a little bit unfair. But it was quite unique and different, so I like that quite a bit. But yeah, which brings us to Best Leading Actress. So first nominee is Annette Bening for Nyad, which I haven't seen. Carey Mulligan for Maestro. I haven't seen that either, but she's fantastic. Emma Stone, I think, is probably going to be the front runner. She's quite popular, and she won for La La Land, so she's got a bit of tenure there. But she is excellent. Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. So again, the glaring omission here is Margot Robbie for Barbie. Now, I'm not saying that she was the best actress, or that her performance was the best. I'm not saying it wasn't, but like obviously with all the clout that film received, it was a bit surprised that Ryan Gosling got a nod, a few other people got a nod, but she didn't get that. Like these two didn't get a nod. Again, I would like to remind everyone that they got lots of nominations and they were the highest grossing film of the year based on the toy. But one important thing to remember is that Lily Gladstone is the first ever Native American woman to be nominated in this role for this category. And that's a huge milestone, not just for um, the Academy Awards, but also for Native American actors and performers, and for women as well. It's a huge milestone, and it's the only performance I've actually seen. But I would be shocked if she didn't win. I said I think Emma Stone is the front runner, but I just think Lily Gladstone is excellent. Like she was my favorite part of that movie. She brought the only real humor to the movie, but also like she was someone who I hadn't really heard of. She was relatively unknown, I think, to most audiences, and held her own against Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert Downey Jr. and everyone else in that movie. Like, she really carried it. So I do hope she gets the win. And then we go to Best Actor, and I think there's another bit of a mission here. The biggest surprise is that Leonardo DiCaprio didn't get nominated. Now, it's certainly not my favorite Leo performance. I think that probably goes back to something like Catch Me If You Can, or Wolf of Wall Street, or Shutter Island, or something a little bit earlier. But it was good, and I think he did a good job of being unlikable, which is hard to do with Leo DiCaprio, I think, because you just automatically want to like him. But he did a good job at, I guess, distancing himself from the audience. And I do wonder whether that performance being as convincing was one of the reasons why he didn't get the nod, where he was just so unlikable. People didn't want to remember that performance. I don't know. But the nominations are Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, and Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Obviously, the two frontrunners are Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. I don't know which way it's going to go. I think Cillian Murphy was great. I haven't seen Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, but I'm only hearing wonderful things. I think it could go either way. I think we're in for a bit of an upset. I think Cillian Murphy's not going to get it. I think Paul Giamatti's going to win it, and that's not an upset in as much as I'd be upset for Paul Giamatti to win it. I think it'd be fantastic actually for a kid who was a huge fan of Big Fat Liar back in the early 2000s. I think it would be great for him to get a win, especially as someone who's been more of a supporting actor, more of a character actor over his career. To see him start taking lead roles and to show what he can do, I think it'd be a great win. But I think most people are expecting Cillian Murphy to win because Oppenheimer was such a force to be reckoned with. Which brings us to our final category. So, Best Motion Picture of the Year. There's 10 nominees. I haven't seen all of them, but we'll go through them one by one. The first is American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Holdovers, and The Zone of Interest. Having only seen a couple of these, I do think Oppenheimer is the best of the bunch I've seen. However, I've heard really wonderful things about Past Lives and Poor Things. I'd love Yorgos Lanthimos to win. I think he's an incredible director. He makes some really. The thing I like about Yorgos is he doesn't just make great films. He makes weird films. He makes unsettling, uncomfortable films, and he challenges his audience. Although the same could be said about Martin Scorsese this year. The Kills of the Flower Moon was very challenging. But also, Past Lives being an international film. I don't know if it's Korean or Japanese. I can't remember where it's from. I'm just trying to look it up now. South Korean film, excellent. South Korea's been making wonderful films for the last 30 years and longer. So I would love to see South Korea get another win, especially following Parasite. Even having not seen Past Lives, I'm going to try and watch it this weekend if I can. But I've got a bit of a full schedule already, as you can tell. I think Oppenheimer is probably going to get it, but I'd love to see Poor Things or Past Lives get it. So that's it. That is my my little Oscars roundup. I guess I didn't get too deep into it. I was going to go a lot harder, but this show is all about positivity and celebrating film, not trying to drag things down. So I don't even know if I'm going to watch the Oscars this stage. Like, at the end of the day, the outcome doesn't affect me at all. But it is film, and we very rarely talk about current film. We tend to talk more about the things we've loved, and we reflect on things. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different. So that's my little breakdown of the nods, kind of a few thoughts and feelings. Really bummed Turtles didn't get any acknowledgement. That's probably my biggest disappointment for Oscars 2024. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a good year. I think no matter who wins, it's going to be a good outcome. That's going to wrap up the first part of this episode. So if you don't want to hear me talk about my garage for 25 minutes, you can duck out now and I'll see you next week. If you want to hear me talk about how I turned my garage from a convoluted mess into a great little movie watching space, then I'm going to throw over to Past James to the episode I recorded 2 nights ago. Until then, I'll see you later. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. And this week, guys, I am all alone. It's probably not going to be a trend this year. I know it seems a bit weird to start off the year. Good one. With a guest, and then to do a solo show, then to have a guest and do another solo show. But honestly, January is crazy. You know, the start of the year, a lot of people are back at work, myself included. I've been back at work since the 3rd of January. And then the other half of people are enjoying the limited break they get before going back to work. So because of that, I always try not to, push too hard with the scheduling. And I probably could have got a guest, but I figured, hey, there's some kind of cool stuff going on in the background that maybe you don't know as listeners. So I just take the opportunity to talk about that this week instead. Probably won't be a traditional episode. It won't go for too long, but give you a little bit of an update on what's been going on in my life, and then of course we can talk about how you can do it as well if you want. I'm being cryptic. So, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you will know that I've been working on a bit of a project for the last month or so. Just prior to Christmas, I started posting up some photos of my garage, and I haven't really been announcing what I've been doing, not for any reason other than once you put something out in the world, that's it. If you announce you're doing something, then people expect it. But if you don't say anything, then you can always, if it doesn't work out, you can always hide behind not having revealed anything too much. But I've been cleaning out the garage. It was a pretty big mess, has been since we moved into this place about 4 years ago. And what I've been doing and what I finished doing just last night is I've been converting my garage into a home theater, which has been very exciting. Obviously, as someone who watches as many movies as I do, I think it was 376 last year. I'm up to movie 23 or 24 this year already. I wanted a space that was not for me per se, because that's the immediate thing. People are like, oh, he just wants a movie room for himself. Of course, absolutely. I want somewhere to watch my movies. But I wanted somewhere where I could exhibit them in a way where I could replicate the cinema experience. I don't get to go out to the movies as much as I used to. Last year I wasn't too bad. I went a lot more than I expected to. But I wanted to give the movies a chance to be seen as they should be. Having a kid whose bedroom leads out into our lounge room with a big TV is I can never watch a movie on a louder volume than 10, which, is fine. It's totally serviceable. But I had this idea about doing something with the space because the garage itself was only being used to store junk. So I said to Tina, I was like, look, what if I did this? And thankfully she was pretty on board. There was a little bit, and this is not to paint my wife in a terrible light or anything like that at all. She was very supportive. She did have a couple of concerns around how much work it would take, how much it would cost, which I think is fair. But I just let her know from day one, look, you won't have to lift a finger, which turned out to be a bit of a lie, but I didn't ask for more help than I needed. And I said, and you don't have to worry about where the money comes from. I'll pay for it with whatever leftover money I have in my account after all the bills are paid. So I funded it myself. I did 90% of it myself. Tina did help me with a couple of little things. And again, not to discount the work she did put in, but it was really important to me that as someone who's never done a DIY project before, someone who's never renovated before, someone who's never been very hands-on or kind of good with their hands, I really wanted to sink my teeth into something that was new and different, but also realistic. And I'm actually sitting in the cinema right now. It is the new Film Snob HQ, so all episodes will be recorded from this room moving forward. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So if you have been on Instagram, you will have seen some photos already. You would have seen a video as well where I just kind of introduced people to it, but I just want to take people through what I did. So that's the news. Again, for an episode that's probably a little bit different to what you're expecting. But what I figured I would do is kind of take you through the step-by-step process of what I did. I was going to do a reel on this, but I'm really bad with video editing, especially on smartphones and stuff. So I figured what I'd do is this episode kind of take you through a step-by-step of what I've done, how I approached it, what everything cost as well. Because I know there are plenty of movie fans who listen, and I'm sure a few of you would like some tips, or maybe not even tips, but just want to know what I did and how I did it, so that way you can kind of learn from what I did, maybe learn from the mistakes I made, and kind of create your own cinematic paradise, if that's what it was. So going back to I've been having this idea since I first moved into the house. So back in 2020 or 2019, I should say, I was thinking about a movie room. I really wanted somewhere to keep all my stuff. Obviously, I'm a huge physical media collector, so I wanted somewhere safe for all my Blu-rays and DVDs. I wanted somewhere where I could, as I said, I could turn the volume up. We don't have a kid at this point, but I just wanted somewhere where there's a space. And one rule that's been in place since I've lived with Tina is we don't want a video store in the lounge room, which is fair, and I think that's pretty common for most families. that you want to have your house be a house, and then all the collectible stuff needs to be tucked away, not because we're ashamed of it, but because it takes up space. So that was fair enough. And back in 2020 or 2019, I did say to her, look, I would like to do a movie room. That garage space is quite big. It's a double garage. We have 2 cars. We're not going to park them both in there. We don't have a lot of stuff. I reckon I'll do something with that. And Tim was like, yeah, go for it. And then COVID happened, and I was just trying to find a way to store my DVDs in one spot. At one point, I had everything in the garage, and then I moved everything into the spare room, which is now the office. And then I moved the DVDs out and I was working on multiple storage issues, and I was collecting comics at this point as well. So it was crazy. But eventually, I want to say about 2 years ago, or maybe just over 2 years, maybe 2021, I discovered something called the Artiste DVD cabinet. So this is the first step towards the movie room. And you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on Bunnings. When I bought my first one, I got it for about $110, which I was blown away by because it's so cheap. And what I like about the Artiste DVD cabinet is it blends into the wall. It's about as deep as a DVD case, maybe a little bit deeper than that, just so they don't hang off the edge. But it really blends into the wall. It's got a low, the foot of it, or the lowest shelf that is on the ground, it has a wide berth, so that way it balances easier. And it has totally adjustable shelves. So they boasted in the description they could carry 600 DVDs. I think I got 700 Blu-rays in there just by compacting the shelves as tight as I could. So if you've ever seen the old videos or photos from my office with the Blu-rays, they're all there's no finger room between the top of the Blu-ray case and the shelf, and they're jammed in tight to get as much in there as possible without damaging them. But it is the best bookshelf I've ever bought. So right when I came into this project this time around, I knew I was going to get a few of them. I figured 2 more would be good, so 3 in total. But before I even thought about that, or before I started buying that, I had to figure out how I could make the garage a livable space, because the hardest thing with the garage is obviously it's external. My one has 2 roller doors, but everyone has at least 1 roller door, which means it's susceptible to dirt and dust and bugs and spiders and all sorts of stuff. So I was trying to find a way to make it livable where I wouldn't have to be wiping it down every day to get rid of the dust and spiders and stuff. So I just Googled how to reduce dust in a garage. It sounds pretty silly, maybe it's pretty obvious, but I just didn't know what else to do. And so what I had to do was a process called etching and sealing the concrete. Now, I still don't quite know what etching means exactly. I think etching was basically scrubbing to the point where all the loose crap and junk in the concrete became free so I could clean it. So what I did was I went to Bunnings, which is my local hardware store. If you're not in Australia, I'm trying to think of what I know. There are a couple, Aces Hardware, I think, is one in North America. But your local hardware store. And what I did was I went to the painting section, the floor painting section, and got something called an etcher. I can't remember what the brand was now, and concrete sealer as well. And the reason they recommend sealing it is to keep it waterproof. So if you spill anything, it won't get absorbed by the concrete. But also, by sealing it, it reduces the impact for any dust and stuff. It's all covered up, so there'll be no dust coming out of the concrete. Because one thing I didn't know is that concrete, left unsealed, as it oxygenates, creates more and more dust, which is why the garage is normally the dustiest part of your house. So, we learned something. So I got my etcher and my seal. I got my stiff brush. I got my power washer all set up. I already had one of those, so that made it nice and easy. I had to get some face masks and proper hardware ones because they're chemicals, and I also got some foam filler or expanding foam because the edges of the garage, obviously, where they kind of come away from the wall, bugs kind of live in there and spider webs and stuff. So I wanted to do that. So I filled up all the gaps with the foam filler. I emptied the entire garage, which took probably about a week, because I was still working full time at the same time. So I'd get up in the morning, take a little bit out, go to work, finish work, take a little bit more out. And I also had a bunch of my dad's stuff in the garage as well. So what I would do each morning is go through the stuff that he had, take it off the shelves, compact the shelves, put the shelves in the hatchback, and just load it up with as much stuff as possible. I actually still have some of his stuff here, but most of it's done. And once the garage was empty, I think it was Boxing Day, I started etching the concrete. So The process was pretty straightforward. If I remember correctly now, I had to like mix it with water. So I think I had like a kilo, which is 2 pounds, of etching salts mixed with like a liter of water. I don't know what the American version of a liter is. And basically I had to put in my watering can and just covered the entire concrete floor and then just scrub. And you could tell because like fizzes and foams and like I don't think it's quite acidic, but it does eat into all the grime. So I was doing that and scrubbing it away, and that was really hard work, like just like on my back and my arms. But it probably took me about an hour, maybe not even an hour to do that. And then I got the power washer and like just sprayed it all out. And it was crazy. Like the concrete was a different color afterwards. It was so clean. And I didn't do it probably the best I could have done. Like, again, I'm very new to all this sort of stuff. I've never done anything like this before, so I probably could have done a better job. But for my first go, I was pretty happy. So then what I had to do was wait until it dried. So I left that overnight. And then the next day I came in with my sealer, and this required a roller. Now, unfortunately, between etching it and coming back to seal it, a bunch of like dirt and crap had blown back in. So I had to like kind of brush it, like kind of sweep everything out again. Brush, what am I talking about? Had to sweep everything out again. And they recommend sealing when there's absolutely no dirt or dust or like bits of grass or anything on the concrete at all. I thought I cleaned it up pretty well. I'd missed a few bits, but that was fine. You know, like I managed to, like there are little bits and pieces there, but the sealing coat, so what you do, the first one is you pour it, I can't remember what the measurement was, but you pour it out undiluted, so just like, or was it diluted first? No, it was diluted first. All the instructions on the bottle, so if you want to do this. And I should say, like with the etching and sealing, that's only if you want to turn your garage into a cinema. If you're going to do it in your house, you can skip this whole process. But I got my sealer, diluted it first, and used my long roller, and I covered all the concrete so that like it was nice and thick and covered in like this kind of white water. And then I had to wait for it to dry, which only took about an hour. And then I did a second coat, and the second coat was undiluted. And again, using my roller, like it's kind of like one of those paintbrushes on a long roller stick. So I used that one. And that took, not too long. And then I just let that dry and seal. And then I didn't go back into the garage until that night. So I probably finished that around 3 p.m. And then probably around 8 o'clock I went back in. And it was all drying pretty nicely. Now with the sealer, they recommend waiting 7 days. I didn't. The reason they recommend waiting 7 days is it needs to cure. And when you do that, it'll make sure that anything you spill on it, any oil or anything like that, will not be absorbed by the concrete. But I'm not really using it as a garage anymore. Like half it's being used as a garage, but I was never worried about spills. We don't have any kind of contaminants or liquids in here anyway. So then I had to wait, and I want to say it was after New Year's I went in. Well, it might have been New Year's Eve. I can't remember what it was now. But the next thing was to get carpet. And this is where Tina came in, because Tina did a little bit of research for me, because I really wanted red carpet. I wanted to have like like an Academy Awards, going to like the gold class cinema feel. And obviously it's in a garage, so there's a vacuum cleaner sticking out of the wall. It's never going to feel like that, but I just want to like class it up a little bit. But red carpet is really expensive and really hard to find. But Tina found like an outlet not too far from where we live in Bayswater, and they were selling carpet tiles starting at $1.10 a tile, which is crazy. So once we found that place, we just kind of gave them a ring, or we sent them a message on Facebook, I should say. They didn't have red, but they said, come down, have a bit of a look and see what you can find. And what they did have was kind of this maroon color. So it's a reddy brown. Depending on the light, the color will change. So I'm in the office I'm in the cinema right now, and it looks kind of more red to me, but under direct sunlight, it looks a bit more brown. But that was fine. So $1.10 a tile is what I paid. I could have got like these brilliant, like bright red tiles, but they were like $5.50 a tile. And you have to remember, like I'm paying off a mortgage and I've got a kid, so I'm trying to do this really ambitious project, but I'm also trying to spend too much money. And I will tell you how much everything cost at the end of the episode. So we got that and we came home, and we didn't do anything with the carpet that day. We had a couple other things to do, but the next day, Tina helped me out and we laid it all down, and I put a photo of that up as well. But one thing we had to do at a future date was get some carpet tape, which we have done since there, just to like seal it all together. It wasn't the best option. Like even now, some of the carpet tiles do space out a little bit. The tape we bought, we thought was double-sided. It wasn't, so they have slipped a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like I'm sitting here on the couch watching movies. I'm not sitting there looking at the carpet. So we etched and sealed the concrete. We put our carpet down, and that's why I started moving some of the furniture back in. So There's this buffet which I've had for ages. I bought it a couple of years ago to store my Blu-rays in. Since then, it's been housing DVDs. Now it houses all of my old games consoles. So I put a photo of that online as well, I think. And that's up the end in front of the window. I don't really care about that. There's one window leading to the garage, but if I want to watch a movie with the projector on, I've got to have all the lights off anyway, so that didn't bother me at all. After the carpet, we had to bring everything back into the garage that belonged there. So that's probably the least exciting part of it. We did that. And then what we had to do was get the cabinets organized. So I ordered the cabinets, my Artiste bookshelves, so 2 more of those. And they were delivered in the new year. So I think I ordered them before the new year ended, but they weren't delivered till the new year just because obviously with the holidays, everyone was, no one was driving, doing deliveries, stuff like that. But that was okay because I had to wait for a few things to be finalized anyway. So I assembled those on a Saturday morning. I think it took about 2-3 hours to assemble them. They're not overly complicated, but they are big. And I was doing it all by myself while Zoe and Tina slept. So I didn't want to kind of wake them up. And then it turns out they woke up while I was doing it anyway. So I put those together and what's the word for it? Braced them to the wall, which I'd never done before, but I braced them to the wall and then started bringing a bit more furniture in. And that was probably all I did on the movie room for about a week or so. I was back at work at this point, or I was heading back to work, so I had less time to do things. And then the next thing we did was we had this couch in the front room of our house, which the dogs just slept on. There's nothing wrong with the couch. We just didn't have a need for it in our main room because we'd got a new one when we moved into the house. So unbeknownst to me, Tina actually vacuumed the couch and she got like the spot cleaner. We've got like this little kind of like water vac thing and she cleaned it up all nice, which was really lovely of her. I didn't even ask her. She just did it, which was great. And she was like, hey, you should use that for the movie room. I was like, that's awesome because right now I've got a rocking chair. So this is a huge upgrade. So she did that. And then on the weekend just past, she helped me move the other cabinet into the garage as well. So we finally had our 3 Artiste bookshelves in there. And then it was my job to move all the movies in. And that probably took 2 hours. Probably because I was getting distracted by other things as well. But I had a lot of Blu-rays to move in. So I haven't brought the DVDs in yet. They're in boxes, but I haven't decided where I'm going to put them just yet. I think they'll probably go in the buffet underneath all the game consoles. But I brought that in. We laid down this red rug. So we had this red rug, which we had in our old place as well. So as you can see, because I'm listing things, I am buying new things. I am paying for things, but also I'm using what I have as well. And because of that, I'm able to keep the price of the upgrade or the renovation really low. So put the red rug down, put the couch on, got the bookcases in, moved all the Blu-rays on there. And then Sunday morning I woke up and I was like, well, I guess I should start using it. We've got a TV in there, got an old 32-inch TV. I've got heaps of Blu-ray players we've got 2 PS3s, a PS4, a PS2, 2 universal Blu-ray players. I was spoiled for choice. But there's something kind of nagging on my mind where I didn't want to start using it until I had a projector in there. And originally I wasn't going to get a projector for months because Nick Owen, friend of the show, Nick Owen, had recommended a really good one that he has. I think that costs around $300-$400. And I was looking online on JB and they had one about $700, but the review's really good. And so I was like, well, I'll have to wait. And then I did a bit more research. I was thinking about it more and more. And I realized that everything I've done with this movie room has been done on the cheap. And when I say cheap, I don't mean like kind of skimping on quality, just been done in a way where it's affordable for someone who's on a budget. And I didn't have a budget. I didn't plan ahead. I was just like, we'll figure it out as we go along and whatever it costs, it costs. But I also thought that as it's my first project, it could still go horribly wrong. And maybe it's not the kind of thing I want to use on the regular. Or maybe it ends up going back to being a garage or any number of things. So then when I kind of went into that perspective, I was like, maybe I don't want a $300 projector. I certainly don't want a $700 projector. So let me just jump on Amazon this morning and have a bit of a read on some of these mini projectors, see what the highest rated ones are, the most purchased ones, and look at the pricing there. And I ended up settling on the number 2 rated projector on Amazon. The number one, the only reason I didn't get it was it didn't have some features that I wanted. So it didn't have Bluetooth. It didn't have auto keystone. So keystone basically is how if it has auto keystone, the projector will reshape the screen according to the space it's on. It didn't have that, but it was $85, so it was really tempting. I ended up going with the number 2 one, which is a Wimius. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And I tested it last night. in the light and in the dark, and it was fantastic. And I'm using it again right now. I was actually watching a movie right before I started recording this. So as of yesterday, the 22nd of January, the movie room's functional. I've got a couch in here. I've got a rocking chair. I've got all my Blu-rays, all my bookshelves. I've got a projector. I moved up my sound bar in. That was the one downside of the projector, is the sound wasn't great. But we had a sound bar we never used because of the kid. So I brought that into the movie room as well, and now everything's working. So all in all, I guess I should go through the cost. Look, I'll say this: to convert my garage into a cinema cost me less than $700, which I think is pretty incredible. It's not perfect. There are things that I would change next time. I'd give myself more wall space. I still need to clean the walls. I was very ambitious and tried cleaning them, but I think I just need to paint over them. So when I'm watching movies against the wall, there are little flecks and specks that come up occasionally. It looks like people are picking their nose and stuff like that, but that's fine with me. I'm not selling tickets. It's, the projector gives me an 80-inch screen, which is the biggest screen I've ever had in my house before. It actually will project up to 200 inches, but I don't have the space for that. So all in all, the upgrade costs under $700. So breaking it down, all the chemicals and cleaning products, including the watering can and the scrubbing brush, to etch and seal the concrete, costs about $160. So if you go to Bunnings, that's what you should be spending. The carpet tiles were $1.10 per carpet tile. We end up spending about $62 on those, which brings us to about $220. The bookshelves, they were the most expensive thing because they fluctuate in price. When I was looking at them before Christmas, they were at around $120. I waited, ended up paying $150 for each of them. So it was about $300 for them, maybe $320. I can't remember exactly. But that brings us up to $540. And then my projector, which retails for $220, I end up paying $130 for it. So that puts us at $670. $670 to turn a garage into a theater. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with it. I've never done anything like this before, and I think it turned out really good. Tina sat down yesterday to have a bit of a look at it. She was pretty impressed with the screen as well. She hasn't actually sat down and watched the movie with me yet, and I imagine she'll use it a lot less than I will. I'm going to bring Zoe in this weekend, and we'll probably watch like Super Mario again, or I might show her Lego Batman. She's never seen that before. There are a couple of things I still want to do. I want to hang some pictures. I want to, as I said, like paint that wall so it's not as mucky. And I want to hang up my podcasting schedule as well, so that way I have access to all my notes. But yeah, that's what I've been working on for the last month. And that's the thing, it only took me a month to do. It would have been a lot quicker if I hadn't been working. There weren't other things going on. But I can't believe how much I achieved in such a short period of time. I can't believe I kept the price down as low as I did. And for a first effort, I'm really happy with it. As time goes on, I'll want to make changes. Like right now, the projector does project a little bit onto the pipe coming out of the the vacuum cleaner. It's not ideal, but a space for me to come at the end of the day or even early in the morning. I haven't done an early morning movie run yet, but I imagine I will at some point. But to come at the end of the day after Zoe's asleep and Tina wants to do some stuff in the house, I now no longer need to worry about impeding on her space. She could use the whole house for her sewing and stuff. I can come out here and do my own thing, watch some movies, and enjoy the labor of my work, So anyway, that's what I've been doing since before Christmas. If you listen to this episode and you have more questions, you like some advice, or you just want to know a bit more about the process, I feel like it's pretty thorough with this one. If you want more information, definitely hit me up. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I'll answer your questions. If you want recommendations for movies to watch in your own home theater, I can help you out with that one as well. But that's pretty much it. There's not much else to tell. I haven't watched anything new. I watched Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 since I last did an episode. So Nick Owen had it in his top 10. I watched it the other night on the projector, and I really dug it. I don't know if it hit my top 10. It'd be pretty close. It was really enjoyable. I think it's my favorite of the Mission Impossible films. I haven't had a chance to see Poor Things yet because I have to travel to the city for that one, but I'll be checking that out this weekend, hopefully. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I will be back next week with another guest. We're going to start our 2000 series pretty soon, and I've been planning the 2-year anniversary episode because that's coming up in February as well. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the show. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit different, obviously a little bit drier, not as much content, but Hopefully it inspires you all to do your own thing, because if I can do this, then anyone can. Like, that's the thing you need to take away from it. Like, if I can do it, like a dope like me can do all the heavy lifting and do all the scrubbing and put everything together in a way that looks, kind of fun and unique, you can totally do it. So I hope I inspired some people, or if not, at least you learned what not to do. Maybe you look at my set and be like, oh, he's made so many mistakes, but that's fine. It's all a bit of fun and a learning experience. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob. So thank you as always. If you want to check me out on Instagram, I Was a Teenage Film Snob, underscore between every single word. Shoot me a message, a like, a comment. I'll respond to you. I'll have a chat with you for sure. If you want to support the show financially, help me pay off the zip debt that I've accumulated with this project, you can head over to tpublic.com and order a shirt. I'm just kidding. I get no money out of them, but it is about spreading the word of the show. They're all designed by Josh Sacco, so definitely worth checking out, and they're really comfy as well. If you can't find it on TeePublic, you can head to the links in my Instagram chain as well. But that's it. Thank you all for listening. I look forward to talking about more movies next week. But until then, as I say every week, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. See you next week.